Well, as we move into week two, it's going to be a little bit more intense, a lot more reading and thinking, but keep in mind that's your first essay is your ability to use your reading skills and shape a discussion based on the disinformation strategies shared by the tobacco industry, which we'll cover this week, and the fossil fuel industry, which we'll cover next week. We'll start every week off most every week with a self assessment just to give you an idea to reflect on what worked and what didn't work, and just kind of a pause. And I will put this short YouTube video on the overview page for this week. It's a pretty big week, actually. So you're probably going to have about 8 or 10 hours worth of work here. So it is a good sized week, no question about it. And we'll start off with a pretty simple thing, which is just a review of week one. You provide what you think is the most notable thing from last week, something that struck you, and bring in a one of the profit-based deceptions from the movie that really did something for you. You said, wow, they actually do that. That'll be the first thing. And you've got your notes from the movie to do that. One of the background themes we're going to have here is that you wonder why these scientists like Seitz and Singer, who basically ignore the science of climate change and ignore the science of cigarettes, the harm cigarette does, why these scientists do that. And I think it has to do with kind of a political orientation for them, probably pro-industry and distrusting the environmentalist, the sort of, if you will, nanny state of the left where the government has to regulate and organize our lives for our own good. So it may be something to do with that. We've seen in recent time with COVID, the vaccination rates, the more Democratic-leaning pro-Biden counties are up in the 70s and 80% of the vaccination, and your densest pro-Trump counties are down in the 30 or 40%. And it's not like these people can add and those people can't. It's not that simple. It has a lot to do with bias and just the power of distrust. The people on the high vaccination rate saying, hey, as I do, Anthony Fauci, he's a god. I listen to him. I do what he says. I trust him. He's an authority of great prestige and great integrity. But people on the other side, maybe because of Fox News and right-wing media, think, oh my God, it's a government conspiracy. So there's a lot of bias built in that exists outside of the data. I didn't actually analyze Fauci's data. I trusted him. These people didn't actually analyze any of the data. They distrusted people. So it's that kind of a thing. And you can see how it plays out not only with COVID, but also with climate change, where the trust, the Democrats, the blue line, you've got about 84% say, hey, we're doing this. And then you look at the Republican, hard right Republican, you're at about 28%. And then you get, kind of the people in the middle are moving close to the middle. I should also mention that most young Republicans, 18 to 35 or so, their numbers are the same as the Democrats. So some of it's generational as well, where the younger people are, I would say, a lot more informed, no matter what political party they come from. So, bias is going to weigh in. That's why I have that there. You have to be aware of it. It's not what we're going to write about, but you'll find that Naomi Oreskes spends a lot of the time with that. And so even though we're not writing about bias, she will, and I'll switch to the book here, she'll spend a fair amount of time in the beginning of chapter 1 giving you a mixture of things, kind of the political orientation and background of Seitz and Singer. And then we're also working with the late 70s, where they're coming out trying to protect the tobacco industry against secondhand smoke, claims that secondhand smoke cause cancer. Because if that holds, then you can't smoke in bars and restaurants. This was a new idea back then, and now it's pretty well, accepted all over. And then they kind of move into how they protected the tobacco industry, but you also get a little bit of their political background, what their orientation is. And so you're going to have to tease this stuff out somewhere between their orientation and their biographical sketch. You're also going to get some really good examples of what I would call a red herring. That is, if they can, as they do on page 12, talk about the emotional framework, how that could lead to cancer, how the immune system, how a family of depressed people, how that can lead to cancer. And what that is, it's a way of saying cigarettes aren't the only cause. Kind of takes cigarettes off the hook, points it in another way. So you're going to have to tease this out of a lot of background information. That's the reading challenge. And then again, the book starts, chapter 1, with 1978 and 9, and it's only a few pages in that we actually get to the beginning of it all, which is 1953. And then through this mixture of history and biographical sketch, your job is to tease out the strategies. So it's going to take a couple of readings, and you're going to have to be able to separate and say, oh, that's background, that's biography, oh, okay, and this is the strategy they used. You're going to be writing about the strategies. So it's going to take some sifting. I think all of the reading is important. It's good to know the history, the context, the background, but your writing is going to be narrow, and so you're going to have to sift through that. And that's really going to be your reading challenge. Back to this. All of your assignments, I think, are pretty well explained. They're also going to have rubrics. I'm going to pop one up here. And usually with these rubrics, what I'm looking for is strong ideas of your own and good quotes to back them up. This is basically your note-taking for an essay. And, excuse me. And so what you're doing is you're getting your information gathering. Here we're going to go back a little bit, look at a couple of editorials that were written in response to the attack on Ben Santer. We wrote about that in week 1. So I want you to see the tobacco strategies at work in these editorials. It's all about strategies, about how they, in this case, they used them to attack Ben Santer. And then in this next exercise here, based on 10 to 14, I want you to practice quote integration. So if you go to the link there for the ICE method of integrating quotes, some of you know this, some of you don't. You might want to read this. You introduce the quote, provide enough information so it'll make sense. You cite the quote grammatically, and then you explain how it relates to your topic. And so we're going to work on quote integration. That also is in preparation for your first essay. Your grades will be dependent not only on how strong your ideas are, but how well you integrate quotes. So this gives me a chance to comment on something that's going to be a really important part of your essay and your grade, and more importantly, the skills you want to take from the class. There's also a voice thread to help explain that. Take it a little bit further, and a good example as well. And this is, so a lot of what we're doing here is a mixture of reading, critical writing, paragraphing, red herring. We're going to be looking for those diversion tactics. I just mentioned one. Red herring is basically to draw your attention away from that. So if you have a mountain of data saying cigarettes kill people, then you want to have people think of, but we don't understand how cigarettes kill people. Or, maybe it's something else. You want to pull their eyes away from that mountain of data and have them look over and say, but maybe it's this, maybe it's that. The same thing works in the climate change denial. They don't want you to look at CO2 emissions from fossil fuels because, hey, that's how the corporations make their money. So they want you to look away in the other direction and say, maybe it's the sun, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. That's what a red herring is. It's a distraction. historically, it comes, I think, from the fox hunt, where, you know, the Brits on their horses with their funny looking outfits are all following their dogs chasing the fox, and the opponent might take a red herring and drag it across the trail and into the forest, and the dogs will catch up on that scent and run in the opposite direction instead of in the direction of the foxes. So it's a way of pulling your attention. Just like the dog, you smell something else and you run that way, and you forget the target of your hunt. And cherry picking, I think people understand that pretty well. It's when you selectively lift data out. And right around 17 or 18, Naomi Oreskes gives several examples of cherry picking. And she identifies them for you. So those are the kind of fallacies we're going to look for. And I'm going to want you to be able to follow these instructions. Don't just identify, but explain how the fallacy works. For example, for the red herring, the way it works is that it has to divert your attention from the mountain of data showing cigarettes are deadly. And you have to have what that attention is diverted from, or else the red herring makes sense. And similarly, cherry picking, you have to understand the background is just an absolute library of data saying don't smoke, it's deadly. So they have to cherry pick things from that library that say, well, maybe it's not all that certain. So you always have to provide the context. And again, I have a rubric here. And if you look at these rubrics 20, 10, and 0, I'll use these to grade. 20 means you're in the A and B range for your essay, if your writing is consistent. 10 means you're in the C range. 0 means D or F. So keep in mind, everything you do here is giving you preparation for your essay. It's your ability to state ideas and back them up with the text. And it's kind of an advanced warning since the essay carries most of the weight. And it's also advanced guidance. Work on this. Pay attention to that. And so that's going to follow through the end of week 1. You're going to have a similar thing, kind of a looser discussion for 20 to 24. Basically something that really stood out for you. That's a different type of writing. There's an example. And I'm not going to read through things that you can read through while you're there. I don't want you to keep you here forever. And then finally, as we get to the end of the chapter, I want you to, that'll be 24 to 35, I want you to look for those strategies again. And keep in mind, this is also building notes, building concepts, all of which are going to be used in your first essay. So your success in the class depends on this. Take it seriously now, and you'll be ready to roll when the essay comes out. And I think we're getting to about the end of week 1. Pardon me, week 2. I'll wake up someday. And there's 6 weeks to go in this short 8-week class. You've already finished a quarter. It's like being at the end of a month in a normal semester. We'll have an essay coming up soon. And I warn you, there's going to be 8 or more hours of work next week. And it's all about getting ready for Essay 1. I hope this helps you get an idea of week 2.